I'm Gretchen Ritter, the Executive Dean and Vice Provost for the College of Arts and Sciences, and I'm really pleased to be with you here today to have a conversation about this exciting project that we have going on within the college and for the university and the broader Columbus community, which is the Arts District. And I'm also really pleased that we'll be having a conversation with some of our faculty and students who can give us a sense of what this project is about and what it makes possible and what their hopes are for the future. Let me just say a little bit about the format and then we'll dive in. We'll have an initial presentation by Associate Dean Sergio Soave. Dean Soave is our Dean for Facilities. He is also a faculty member in the art department. Following that, we will open it up to the other members of the panel for a conversation. The other members of the panel include Jacob Athiel, who is a Master of Fine Arts in Acting. We also have with us Nadine George-Graves. Nadine is the chair of our dance department. She is a professor of both dance and of theater, film, and media arts. We also have Brennan Harlow, who is an undergraduate in our music education department. In addition, we have Professor Rachel Skaggs. Professor Skaggs is the Lawrence and Isabel Barnett Assistant Professor of Arts Management in the Department of Arts Administration, Education, and Policy. So I'm really looking forward to hearing from all of these folks. And with no further ado, and I will also add that once we've had a bit of conversation among the panelists, we will open it up to some of your questions that you type in the Q&A section. So with no further ado, let me turn it over to Sergio to give us some background.
There you go. I'm the first one to have a technical glitch, so that makes everybody relax. Good afternoon, everyone. And thank you, Dean Ritter, for inviting me to share a little bit of historical context and kind of some images and descriptions of what will be the Arts District. I want to start by saying that the northeast corner of the Oval has always been the home of the arts, beginning with the dedication of Hayes Hall in 1893, followed by the Ohio Historical Society Museum and Library, which is now known as Sullivan, in 1914. And Hughes Hall, the current home of the School of Music, was built in 1948. And the investment in the arts grew over time with the addition of Hopkins Hall in 59 and Waggle Hall in 1979. So the Arts District is anchored by the college's academic units of art, arts administration, education, and public policy, dance, design, and music, and is co-located very nicely with the Mershon Auditorium and the Wexner Center for the Arts. And over the past decade, the university and the college has invested over $40 million in renovations to Hopkins, Hughes, and Sullivan. And this construction of the new music building and a new music building for theater, media arts, film and media arts, in addition to ongoing projects on the 15th Avenue and High Street corner, will firmly establish the arts as the new front door for the campus of Ohio State University. So let me give you a little bit more information about the two new buildings, which you're seeing on your screen right now. The construction of our newly named Timoshaw Family Music Building and the new Theater, Film, and Media Arts Building will create a critical mass of creative energy stimulated by collaborations between faculty, students, staff across the disciplines in the arts, not only within the arts, but also engagements with all the units in the college and across our campus and in our community. Some of the design principles of these new facilities are anchored on concepts of openness, visibility, permeability, and connectivity. This is demonstrated by the thoughtful site within the Arts District that includes an active plaza and a cafe to fuel social interactions and celebrate creativity. And the design streetscape will include a tree canopied walkway, creating a new pedestrian route from the north residential area to the east end of the oval. Both buildings are wrapped in large, generous windows that provide views into the lobbies and into the performance and rehearsal spaces, labs, classrooms, all from the street. The buildings talk to each other with open social spaces that share design elements and visually connect across the new plaza space. The Timoshaw Family Building will bring the entire faculty, staff, and student body together under one roof through a new connecting lobby that extends to an expanded Weigel Hall lobby. This new facility will greatly improve the acoustics throughout the building. That includes a new 195-seat recital hall, new large ensemble rehearsal hall and performance space, jazz studio, percussion studio, recording studios, computer lab, piano lab, classrooms, library, faculty offices, faculty studio spaces, practice rooms for the students, and spaces for new research and collaborative projects. Directly south of the Timoshaw Family Music Building, just 23 feet south across the plaza, will be a future home of our newly formed Department of Theater, Film, and Media Arts. This forward-looking facility is designed to meet the needs of the new curricular offerings and expanded areas of creative research. This building will include a proscenium theater of 450 seats, a hybrid thrust black box space, a new works lab, rehearsal spaces, lighting lab, costume shop, scene shop, design studio, computer lab, and classroom spaces. The media and film production facilities include two soundstage spaces, equipment storage, checkout space, edit suites, sound lab, computer lab, and a screening room. The buildings will have offices and collaborative space to bring faculty, students, and staff of this new and growing area in the college under a single roof. The buildings complement the existing facilities in Sullivan Hall, Hopkins Hall, Hayes, and Weigel without duplication. This will encourage all members of our creative community to work within and throughout this new arts district as a whole and as a combined infrastructure, creating a dynamic neighborhood for creative practice, innovative scholarship, engaged teaching, collaboration, and community partnership. What you're seeing on the screen right now are the current music building. We are very much above ground and almost completely wrapped just in time for the really cold weather. Construction of the theater, film, and media arts building is well underway. Most of that work is below grade. The timeline for the buildings, we expect to be able to begin using the music building as a whole in late 22, and then the theater building will follow shortly in late 23. So I'm going to stop there and wait for any questions or if I can describe anything any further.
So thanks so much, Sergio, for the good foundational information about the project. And I want to kind of take us up a level and welcome our other panelists here. And in taking it up a level, I want to ask people to reflect with us on beyond these two buildings, what do we mean when we talk about the Arts District? What is it? What's the larger idea behind it, if you will? And why does it matter? And Nadine, why don't I ask you to pipe up first here?
Right, sure. Hi, everyone. So, you know, at the risk of waxing philosophical or too big and, you know, visionary and less, you know, practical, I think that it's, for me, I should say, I've only been here for 3 years. And and before joining the Buckeye family, I had taught at other institutions and some places with different degrees of state-of-the-art to, really poor theater in the non-intentional way. And I think that part of what wooed me here to OSU was the prospect of the Arts District and the possibility, for me, selfishly speaking, of being able to do the kind of work that I do as an artist and a scholar who's never behaved myself by staying in one discipline. And as somebody who is a border crosser, somebody who works between theater and dance, I've devised original musicals, so working with musicians and artists and poets. The idea that an arts district and being able to be 50-50 in theater and dance, so really recognizing all of my work was very exciting. So I was excited about that. They said there's going to be a new building. I said, yeah, I've heard that before, come on. And then I talked to more and more people, and I got convinced of the possibilities. Dance already had a stellar reputation. I know the theater building's been paused because of the pandemic and other things, but I'm still very hopeful for the future. I joke that I've been getting my steps in since being here. I've been walking between the theater department and the dance departments exactly 20 minutes, and I know where to stop to get warm in between. And if I miss the bus, do I walk? Do I take a chance on getting a parking space on the other side? I know it's not all about me, so it's not just about reducing my steps, but I think that metaphorically speaking, when theater sort of joins us over in the Arts District, that that kind of work that, for me, that doesn't fall in neat categories gets to flourish. That kind of work that is interdisciplinary, that relies on artists inspiring other artists, that's when that kind of work can really take off. I mean, it's happening now, but I'm just really excited for what's going to happen in the future.
Others, when you think about the Arts District? Rachel.
I can step in. So if Nadine is on the practical to philosophical, if she's more philosophical, I can often find myself with the hard data in the practical world. And so something that recent studies have really shown is that if we're trying to have artists have successful careers, multidisciplinary practice and collaboration is one of the big indicators of a successful, durable career in the arts. And within Ohio, that industry, the creative industries, represent $41 billion worth of economic activity and almost 300,000 jobs. And so when I think about what it means to have an arts district where you have theater and dance and multidisciplinary practice being not only encouraged, but maybe even accidentally happening through kind of the happenstance of co-location, that makes me excited about what that means for that bottom line and those statistics about our arts graduates going into the world and being posed for success. And so it might sound, a little bit grounded in data and a little bit instrumental, but that really does excite me. And I think that it's a great opportunity for our students and really exciting going forward.
Excellent, thank you. And let me turn to our students here. And I'd love to have you reflect. You've seen the building plans, you've seen some of what's coming up. When you see this, what excites you about the possibilities? Jacob.
Where do I begin? First of all, that was an incredible list of images. Thank you, Sergio. Dean Soave, excuse me. But in addition to that, just piggybacking off of what Rachel was saying, when I applied for this program, you could tell early on that Ohio State believed in that collaboration with everybody, and it kind of right at the auditions, which as an actor, someone who worked in the industry for 8 years, I went to grad school because didn't have those skills that so many people in the profession were looking for, of cross collaboration, of knowing media arts ahead of time. And so then I went to all these auditions all over the place where they were teaching a lot of the classes that they were also teaching back in the 80s. And it's not knocking those classes or those institutions, those lessons were really good. But there's something about Ohio State that was all about pushing forward and figuring that out. And I spent my Master's of Fine Arts education here, kind of seeing this horse running that is all about collaboration, all about bringing more toys into the sandbox. And the only thing that was cutting us short were the resources. And it kind of feels like this building is the opportunity to take that horse that's been running on a treadmill and taking it off the treadmill and actually putting it on a track and just seeing it run. It's so exciting. The only thing that can come to my mind is the mischief our students are going to be doing in the future, the things they're going to create. I'm getting emotional. It's just very exciting.
I like it. I like the idea of good mischief here. Brennan, how about for you? How do you think about this?
Yeah, I can kind of think of kind of like our greater student community that we have here at OSU. Oftentimes when I tell people I'm a music major, I kind of get two responses. Either one, they go, "Are you in the marching band?" And unfortunately, I am not. My focus is in voice. But the other response I quite often get is, "Oh, OSU has a music school?" And so when a lot of people ask me like, "Oh, where can I go see performances? Is it in an arts building?" I kind of have to explain, well, we don't necessarily have an arts building. We have the School of Music in Hughes Hall, and then we also have it somewhat in Weigel Hall. And then we also have the theater building, the Drake Center, that's all the way down by the Olentangies. We have the dance department, which quite frankly, I cannot tell you where it's at. And so we have all these different places all over campus. And now I can excitedly say that we are no longer in these different, we're no longer going to be in these different places. The kind of idea I get is thinking back to my childhood of the movie Lemonade Mouth, where the arts program was in the basement. And so we're no longer having all these things in our metaphorical basement. It's coming to light in a really big way. And so students are going to be able to see that. And I think that's really, really amazing.
Yeah, and as you say, you invoke the geography, and this is of course something that Sergio opened up for us as well. Sergio, why don't you start us off here? Why does the geography matter? Why is the geography of these buildings? Why is the geography in terms of where this is on campus? Why does the geography in terms of the campus's relation to the broader community matter for this?
So there's a couple of ways to answer that. So one is that, we're 80% to an arts district, before we even build these two buildings, and that we have the Wexner Center and Mershon and all the things that are currently located very, very close to each other. But this location helps us organize it a bit better. Those buildings actually connect visually and physically with the other buildings around them. And the other part that Rachel can speak to, because it's been studied quite a bit, there's a density that creative people kind of get fueled by, that bringing people closer together, just physically closer together, just literally running into each other, is one of the reasons that great art cities survive and thrive. And so creating something within the campus that really promotes that isn't a 1.5 mile walk to get between theater and music, and is really important. The other thing, our investment on the academic side, which I call the academic side of the arts district, which is west of High. East of High, there is going to be a new hotel WOSU is well above ground and well on the way to be opening soon. There's a new visitor center. Advancement will be over on the east side of High Street, a new plaza that connects both sides of High Street together to the hotel. I just think there's going to be an increase in pedestrian and traffic that we don't really have right now around and surrounding the arts buildings. And I think it's also that there's opportunity really for faculty and students to socialize and interact and have the quiet, unofficial conversations that oftentimes end up being the real spark for new ideas. So I'm very excited as someone who teaches in Hopkins right around the corner. I can't wait to get the theater and film and media arts people close by and have a cafe to walk to that we all can agree upon would be the place to go talk. I think I'm very excited about that. Been working on this for 6 years, and even just talking about it today feels very different. Even though I've walked through the buildings a couple of times, just the more you talk about it and the more people hear about it, the more real it becomes. So.
And I just want to amplify a couple of the things that you said. One is to kind of remind people that in the middle of this area is the Wexner Center for the Arts. And the Wexner Center for the Arts is, of course, a gem and a real recognized national institution. It's also, and I think increasingly so, part of our campus community, part of the broader community. It is a place that showcases music, film, and visual arts. It is a place that is very interested in the role that the arts can play in, as you put it, Sergio, kind of fostering conversation. One of the things I'm excited by in terms of this geography is that this district will form an entry. It will be an entry to the campus, and it'll be an entry to the campus that is an entry that is about creativity and empathy and hope and encounters, if you will. That, to my mind, is a very powerful thing that we're doing, not only for the arts, but for the entire campus community, and I hope a contribution in our relationship to the broader Columbus community. So let's think and talk for a minute, if we can, about how you might hope that the Arts District will have a positive impact on our students, on our faculty and staff, and on the broader community. Nadine.
Yeah, so I was just thinking about a couple of things that folks have said, and for me, it also, we're talking about this entryway to the campus. For me, I also think about arts districts as creating a home for folks, a third space for folks. So both for students, faculty, but also members of the community, the neighborhood, children, school children, K through 12, teachers, this idea of, we're going to OSU, where do you go? So you gravitate towards this district where things are happening. And it's hard to do that when you're dispersed, but having this idea of the arts district as the place to go, and where you can find your home, that things are happening all of the time, and it's exciting. And it's also a place for forming your identity. So I think that, I was thinking about what you said, Brennan, about, are you in the marching band? And I will say that, yes, I'm new, and this is my first time at a school this excited about football. And so it's a little learning curve for me. And of course, the current theater building is right next to the SHU, and nobody has performances on home game weekends anyway, but, and in one of those treks between my departments, I was walking back to the theater department, and it was in August, and the undergrads in the marching band were practicing, and they were walking across to the practice field, across my the sidewalk that I was walking on. And here I was thinking, well, I'm a big fat professor walking clear the way, and they would not move. They would not move. And so I realized not only where I was in the pecking order, next to the football team, but also the band. I was like, the band too, I've got no clout here at all. And I, all due respect, it was great to see the marching band practicing in their cutoff shorts with the tubas and the French horns, but I just had to wait forever for the band to walk by. And I started thinking about how we create identity and affinity with a school, and, no harm, no foul to football, I'm learning and having a good time, but, people really find a sense of pride and ownership and identity with the football team. And I think that's the same thing that can happen in an arts district, right? Even if you are a football fan, you can still find that sense of home and identity and belonging by thinking about what's happening in the arts the same way we think about what's happening with the football team. So that idea of creating not just a gateway to the rest of campus, but also a home for people to go and be welcome.
Thank you. Jacob, Brennan, what are your hopes? What are your hopes for the students who follow you? Jacob.
Well, there is the collaboration between us, which what we've been talking about between the others, but there's also just other students from other majors also coming into the space and getting exposed to all these different things. I'm not from America, and the good thing of being an immigrant is you kind of get this outside perspective on the country in so many ways. And America loves stories so much. We elect presidents based on stories. We define people based on stories. And the one thing we're great in the arts is storytelling. And this is kind of just one of those perfect places where business majors can come in and grow off of us, and we can grow off of marketing students and students from the med school, because we're also looking for new stories to tell and new people to collaborate with. And it's been spoken about, the Drake Performance and Event Center, which is where the theater department is I like it. It's a wonderful building. It also, Dean Soave, has big, wonderful windows, and you can see deer outside, and you can see otter going down the Olentangy. It's just hard to access if you're not a deer or an otter. And so the beautiful thing about the space is that this is going to be something where the entire community at OSU can come and work with the arts, and you realize how much the arts can benefit you if you are in a major that may seem pretty right-brained.
I could not agree more with Jacob and what he was saying. I think a lot of times when students think of the performing arts, our schools, they don't necessarily think there's something that they can have access to. And that's kind of a fair point. If it's not something that we see every single day, or not something that is really talked about, you're not going to really know it's there. Kind of going back to the kind of the analogy of the basement. I know there have been several times where my friends have asked me to go see a theater department production in the Drake Center. And I live on North Campus, which is by the student union, the Ohio Union. I'm going to be frank, I didn't want to walk 30 minutes at 6 o'clock at night to sit through a 2.5 hour show and then walk 30 minutes back to my dorm. I would much rather sit and be like, okay, my friends can come over, pre-COVID, my friends can come over and watch a movie. These are things that I am also a resident advisor at the university. And these are things that I do have conversations with our residents about a lot. They're always asking, like, what are some fun things that we can do? And if I mention something like that, and then I say, oh, but the center is by the Olentangy River, or it's by the towers, immediately I get, oh. And so when we have something that's right in the center of campus, right next to the oval, it really is going to provide a space where more people are going to be willing to come, as strange as that may sound. And also the addition of having like a cafe in the music building, like that's going to bring so many people into the building who wouldn't normally come to those buildings. I think about when I go to the cafes in the engineering buildings and I'm sitting there like, oh, wow, like I can go and study here like that. Oh, and think of that same thing with the music building. Someone comes and studying and they hear the symphony orchestra playing or something like that. And they're like, okay, I can go to that concert because I want to hear more of that. These are the type of things that would be possible with this new building rather than Hughes Hall, which we have right now, where we don't really have any community spaces inside there. So definitely that aspect of being more visible within the community.
Yeah, so I quite like this idea of visibility and of inviting people in. People have heard me tell this story a few times. So because of COVID, we weren't able to use our spaces as much this fall. And one of the things that we decided to do was to erect some tents. And one of the tents that we erected was on the South Oval, and it was used primarily by the dance department. Well, that turned out to be such a popular and powerful thing. People would come by and watch and get excited, and sometimes even participate from outside the tent in what was going on inside the tent. So that idea of creativity and invitation, I think, is a powerful part of this as well. And then let me ask a little bit more about the community part. So Rachel, you began to talk about this in pointing out the contributions that the arts makes to a creative economy and the way that collaboration is valuable and important to folks who want to go into the arts. Can you talk more broadly about why having an arts district or a creative economy is a valuable thing for a place like Columbus?
Absolutely. And it's something that Sergio mentioned too, this idea of a kind of a critical mass or this collective geography of people coming to one place. And so when I hear collective geography, I think about the collective community that emerges from that. And we know from other research that not only do people think about the arts as an economic driver, but when people see and interact with artists in their community, it totally changes their perception of what an artist is and what art is, leading people to say that artists aren't just money makers, right? They're not just artists as workers, but they're artists as change makers. They're people who are a voice for their community, and they're people who can collaborate to solve problems. And we think about these as things that we want from innovators, from entrepreneurs, from leaders in society. And so I think that changing that perception of what artist is or what our arts majors are, who the artists at OSU are, is really going to change the way that the arts can again be a gateway for OSU to the community, but also just a really exciting catalyzing space for ideas and practice within our community.
Thank you. And I want to also sort of open up the conversation to thinking more particularly about the theater, film, and media arts building. And I should say in comment on a comment that Nadine made earlier, that building is in process. It was paused during COVID, but it's happening. And I really look forward to the doors opening when it's finished. But of course, when the project started, the department that was slated to go in there was the theater department. That department is now the Theater, Film, and Media Arts Department. Why did that change happen? What does it signify, and how does it matter for what we're talking about here? And I'm going to ask either Jacob or Nadine to speak to this.
I can go first. This goes back to what we were previously talking about with the thing with universities is universities can't really prepare students for the job market of today. They have to prepare students for the job market of tomorrow. And at the most, we're talking our students get into the industry 4 years from now. And you see these things with theaters. It's a changing climate where theaters are becoming more digital. They're using more media in their work. Films are looking for more theatrical actors. People are casting folk who do know how to already work with green screen, who can take on media projections, do all these things. And at least from what I've seen, it feels like a lot of universities are yet to catch up with that. So what's really exciting is that this feels ahead of the curve. This feels like it's actually quite reactionary. It is seeing a demand for these artists who can have these multidisciplinary things thrown on their resume that I don't really know too many other universities that offer this education. And so what is exciting is this blurring of the lines that's happening, and then introducing these artists that can work with all of these fields and have a working knowledge within all of them. Because as an actor, I can also work better with something when a director knows how to speak to me and I understand that language. And so that's what the changing of the department name, it kind of ends with the name of the department. What it really means, it's a changing of the DNA of what is involved in the education with the students.
Nadine?
Sure, and I'll say that, in some respects, some of this, it's a new era for the Department of Theater to, but not just be renamed to the Department of Theater, Film and Media Arts. Some of this work was already happening. So there were already parts of the Department of Theater that were involved with media arts and moving image production and film as well. And so this sort of makes it more official, this institutional home for this work, but also pretends more possibility. And I think that not only is this about being in the 21st century and the ways in which artists are required to have skills in general, I also think that this current crisis has taught us a lot about how to navigate in the world in ways that it's important to be flexible and entrepreneurial and be able to pivot, right? So to have the kinds of skills, especially for artists. And as a historian, I know that the arts never die. The arts always survive, and we always find a way. And so, we can't go to Broadway right now. We can't do that, but artists are still making work, and they're finding resources by collaborating. They're finding resources in technology that, always had my phone with a camera on it. Now I use it to make art. And how do I think creatively? If I'm only taught one way to be an artist in the world, when things like a global pandemic, God forbid it happens again, but when things happen and you can't pivot because you only know one way of working in the world, you're not going to do well, right? So I think that this idea that we're talking about, both the new department and the arts district, are around creating opportunities not just for discrete projects, but for teaching our students how to be collaborators, how to pivot, how to be an artist no matter what, even if you don't have your fancy studios, even if you can't get in the building, even if you have to convince the dean to erect a tent next to a bus stop because the dancers will dance no matter what. And we knew that we were going to inspire people at the bus stop. It might have been surprising to some folks to get a little something on their, commute. We know what we do. And so we're not surprised. It's like the backstage tour, where the magic happens. We know. And what's great is that, yes, that was an opportunity for some people who might not have come into Sullivan, which is just, a few yards over there, might not have come in, but they can see the work that we're doing. So I think that both the new department and the possibilities for creating, the artists of the future that has to be nimble in this way, as well as the arts district. That's, I think that that's what makes sense, that these things, this new building, the arts district, the new department, in my head, all of my friends coming over for a big party where we make art and change the world, by the way, that all just makes sense. It's all in the same conversation.
And I'm sure you knew that your dean was pretty persuadable on that one, by the way. So the one thing I'll play off of there as well from both Nadine's and Jacob's comments. Earlier this afternoon, I had a chance to have a conversation with one of our alums who's a vice president at Pixar now. He came here because of boundary crossing. He came here because he could do things that were at the intersections. He came here because of ACAD. There's a deep tradition of that here, of bringing together disparate disciplines, approaches, ways of being creative. And certainly one of my hopes thinking forward is that we will deepen and enlarge that tradition in what we do. So let me ask you a last question and turn to some of the questions that have come in from our audience. If faculty, alums, staff want to help support this, they're excited by it, what can they do?
I can kind of start this off, and maybe I'll be on the philosophical end now. But I think that this is the space to build community out. So in conversations with Ohio State alumni, I'm also new to the university, but have gotten the opportunity to speak with quite a few alums of our various arts programs. And they were surprised about some of the boundary crossing that they did and had to do throughout their career. And so I think that if alumni, faculty, and staff can begin familiarizing themselves with the communities that are all going to be together in this, that finds those little points of intersection and really gets to the point where we can see the boundaries that need to be crossed. Again, perhaps a little philosophical, but I think just the knowledge of what's contained at this large university is about to become so much more clear in this shared space. So I think looking forward to that will be key.
I'll just chime in and just say, I think show up and also let us know what you want, right? What conversations you want to be a part of, what things that, that are exciting to, not just the usual suspects, but we're also the place to go to talk about politics. We're also the place to go to talk about the environment. We're also the place to go to talk about what's happening in other parts of campus. So I think showing up and knowing that you're welcome to our party, right? You're part of all of this grand visioning that we're talking about, that it is not just for the, those of us in these departments, but this is, our gift to, the broader community, and that you're part of that. So I would say to show up, ask questions, ask for the things that are important or exciting to you, and be a part of that conversation with us.
So I'm going to open it up now and turn to some of the questions that have come in from our audience. And The first question I see here is a question about how the Arts District as a site and project engaged with issues of Indigenous land rights. How will it be engaged with issues of Indigenous land rights, especially when promoting Indigenous arts and humanities at the university?
I guess I will say that we still have not completed our landscape plaza. To be honest, the landscaping plan has not been completed yet for the plaza. And I read Richard's question, so I thank you for that. And it's something I'll bring to the design team. We have not really completed what will be in the plaza. So I think there are opportunities to do the appropriate recognitions for the college and for the community.
Maybe another way of thinking about this question, Richard and others, is how does the arts contribute to social change? What are the opportunities and possibilities for addressing community, social equity, some of the challenges of our time?
I'll jump in, and I know I talk a lot, and I'll try not to. And you're just going to get me going on this topic, and I'll try really hard. And also being new, I have to say I tried to. I still am wrestling, trying to figure out what it means to be a land grant institution, and what does that mean in conversation with land acknowledgements as. Sometimes empty gestures, sometimes reminders, sometimes opportunities. And there is going to be, I'm not on it, but there's going to be a webinar coming up on that topic, which I'm going to join. So I think I'm glad that the university is engaging on that level as well. And as I think about, being a site of mass removal, and a real, for me, present absence, and asking as a newbie, who's in our community, who's not, why, what's going on. And in the dance department, I've been a chair for 5 minutes during a pandemic, and all of the upsurge in violence and racism and calls for social justice from the summer, an upsurge, even though this has been going on. And I think that it has charged those of us who have been doing the work before to continue to do the work, and others are paying attention in new ways. And we in the dance department, I'm fortunate, and honestly part of the reason why I took the job is that, we are committed to recognizing that the work of social justice is the work of the arts, right? There's no meeting to discuss whether or not this is our work. We begin with that assumption. And even today at 2:15, we started a new series called Community Conversations. And we talked with a guest talking about dance and social justice. And so we're committed in the department. I haven't met anybody who's not, or will at least say it to my face, but I think that it is important to keep these conversations going, and to not to rest on assumptions, and to not think that it's too late for attending to these larger injustices. And breaking ground on land is an absolute right time to have these conversations. I could go on, but I'll stop.
I'm going to go on to our next question here, which is, will the extension of the Arts District provide new opportunities for alumni involvement and/or graduate studies opportunities? And I'll start off a little bit here. Yes, yes, yes is the answer. I think one of the things that I'm excited about the expansion of the Arts District comes back to this idea of co-location, but also co-location in a place where it's easier for people to enter, including just basic things like there's parking nearby. but also that it's the middle of campus, so folks from campus can enter. And at the same time, it's at the edge, right? So it's an easy place for people from outside the campus to come to. And the other part in terms of the graduate studies opportunities is, I think we're looking at a strong emphasis here on opportunities for collaboration. And in fact, we've just launched a program that will provide for kind of post MFAs that are about creating links across some of our arts programs. So my hope is that this will foster new programs, new opportunities, both in terms of performance, but also in terms of study. Okay, I'm going to go on to our next question, which is facilities look beautiful and practical. I agree. I have a question about the exterior. Are there bike racks? I sure hope so. I don't see any in the slides, but I know they will be needed. Absolutely. Sergio, could you speak to that one?
Yeah, there's only so many images that we can show in like 10 minutes, but yes, there are bike racks. There's also a transportation plan that looks at some of the other questions down the road might answer. Looks at things like availability of parking. There is another parking garage that's going to be constructed on the other side of High Street. We also looked at, we've been talking to CODA about bus routes, bus stops, and also been studying things like ride sharing and other opportunities to get audiences to the performances and openings. We're really aware that, with the large hall in Wago and the performance spaces that we're building, that we could potentially have, and I'm hopeful that we would have, 1,200, 1,400 people come to campus at one time or more to be part of our community and enjoy the arts. I think that's the goal. And so we've studied everything from all modes of transportation to make it as easy as possible for people to get to and from the arts district.
And Sergio, I don't know if you can speak to the question about the music library.
The music library will be, everything will be, I'll answer two questions. Everything will be moved from Hughes Hall across College Avenue to the new building and to the current Wago Hall once we open. The plan is that we would have everything under one roof, and we would, now I want to clarify, I'm talking specifically about the Department of Music, the School of Music library, not the music library that is located, will still stay on 17th Avenue. But for lack of a better term, the sheet music library would be in the new building. The plan for Hughes is that it's part of a campus master plan. It will be repurposed. It'll be renovated as part of the capital plan. That will take some time, but it will be repurposed for the College of Arts and Sciences. The colleges would retain Hughes Hall as an address, and we will use it to improve our facilities across the college. And we will shift some things again in about, that might take 4 or 5 years. But Hughes remains. We're not tearing down Hughes.
So I'm going to make a quick comment, and you might be able to provide more detail on the next question, and then see if we can answer one or two more before it's time to wrap up here. So there's a question here about square footage on rehearsal and production space for the new theater, film, and media arts building compared to Drake. And one of the things I want to say, that it's obviously an important question, is my hope is that one of the outcomes of what we do here is that people won't think about the possibilities for doing things as limited to one building.
I agree. And The other design, there's a couple things that we work when we work with the faculty in theater and in music, but particularly with Drake being a building that I should mention is part of the master plan, and it's going to probably go away soon after we move out of it, and as part of the Med Center campus development. The square footage question, we've wrestled with that, as Nadine was in a couple of those meetings early on, and there's a couple of important points. One is quality over quantity, meaning there's a geometry exercise that happens when you're designing a building. The building we're designing is much more efficient in terms of hallways and back of house spaces. So the total square footage will not be exactly the same. And you wouldn't want to design something that's exactly the same in square footage, because then you're not embracing efficiency. But what we did pay attention to was that the stage spaces are exactly the same or slightly larger than Drake. That it was done intentionally to not curtail or limit what the production and stage design and that part of the education for the students can happen in this building and be expanded. The locations of things are much better. The doors are the right size to move the scene shop and move stuff in and out of the scene shop. So there's a quality aspect of that. And then we did a lot of scoping study in terms of size of audience, use of the current Drake facility. And as Dean Ritter mentioned, what else do we have nearby in terms of like Sean or the Barnett Theater in Sullivan, and how can the department start to move dance performances into the new spaces, or some of the black box experimental theater into Barnett, and some of the things that can happen once everybody's in the same place. So the square footage isn't exactly, but it's comparable, and it's comparable to what our peer institutions have in terms of size of school and scope of program.
So we're just about running out of time. I've got a couple of questions here from folks in history of art that are further down. I just want to make one quick comment on that, and I've got a question from somebody who's in the inaugural class of the Contemporary Art and Curatorial Practice program, which I'm very excited about. And one of the things I'm excited about that program is that it's another point of linkage. And in particular, I think one of the things that I see happening, which I'm encouraged by, is more collaborations with the Wexner Center for the Arts as well. And I think that's one of the things that we're going to see as part of that program. I don't expect that history of art is going to move up to the top of the oval, but luckily it's in an incredibly beautiful space that is a rather short and pleasant walk away from where we're talking about. And don't forget, there will be those cafes. So on that note, I want to express my thanks and appreciation to Jacob, to Brennan, to Sergio, to Rachel, to Nadine for kicking off this conversation, as well as to all the folks behind the scenes who you don't see here, who've put in so much time and effort to bring this together and make it happen, from the arts and sciences, advancement and alumni engagement staff. They do great work and we're grateful for them. So with no further ado, we will end it there for today, but I also want to encourage folks, we'll be sending out follow-up emails and would love to continue the conversation. So thank you all.